The world remembers Audrey Hepburn as the very definition of grace, the iconic black dress, the wide, expressive eyes, but behind the polished image of the breakfast at Tiffany's star was a devastating truth she carried her entire life. Her famously delicate figure wasn't a fashion trend. It was a wound, a permanent reminder of the terror and near starvation she endured as a young girl. And the reality of her wartime childhood was far more harrowing than most people ever knew. Born Audrey Kathleen Rustin in 1929, she arrived into a life of privilege as the child of an English banker and a Dutch aristocrat. Yet comfort didn't mean security. When she was just 6, her father, who openly supported Nazi ideology, abandoned the family. The emotional blow of his disappearance would stay with her forever. At the start of World War II, her mother brought her to the supposedly safe city of Arnhem in the Netherlands. They had no idea that German forces would soon sweep in. At only 11, Audrey was suddenly living under brutal occupation. The years between 1940 and 1945 were nothing short of a nightmare. Audrey and her mother, Baroness Ella, endured escalating violence and fear. She saw Dutch Jews dragged away to concentration camps. Her own uncle was executed. The family's property was confiscated. To protect herself, she concealed her British identity and used the name Etta van Heemstra. But Audrey refused to sit quietly through the terror. She aided the Dutch resistance wherever she could, carrying illegal newsletters, passing messages, and performing clandestine ballet shows to raise money for the fight. But those acts of bravery came with a heavy price. When the catastrophic hunger winter of 1944 struck and food supplies vanished, she and her family survived on tulip bulbs and whatever plants they could grind into something edible. Audrey's health collapsed. She became dangerously underweight and battled severe anemia and lung issues. The effort to dance, to simply keep moving, to cling to life, would shape everything she did from that point on. When liberation finally arrived in 1945, it brought freedom but not healing. The physical and emotional effects of starvation never fully left her. Years later, in 1951, while working on a small film in Monaco, she caught the attention of the French novelist Colette. After seeing her, Colette announced, "There is your Jiggy," leading to Audrey's Broadway breakthrough. Just 2 years afterward, Roman Holiday catapulted her into instant fame and earned her an Academy Award. The world adored her slender look and called it chic. But to Audrey, that thinness was the ghost of hunger, something she had never chosen and never forgot. And here lies the deeper truth. Her lifelong devotion to UNICEF wasn't simply charity. It came from a child who had known real starvation. Every mission she took, every child she comforted, was tied to her own memories of deprivation. Her humanitarian work was fueled by gratitude for having survived when so many others had not. Audrey eventually stepped back from Hollywood's expectations, choosing instead to focus on raising her 2 sons and building a quiet life in Switzerland. In the final chapter of her life, she poured herself completely into UNICEF, journeying into some of the most desperate and dangerous regions on Earth. She continued that work until her passing in 1993. Her elegance was genuine, but her resilience was forged in the darkest corners of war. She turned her deepest pain, hunger, into a lifelong mission to help the world's most vulnerable.